Okay, once again, good morning, guys. We'll get started with today's class. So, today we will be seeing virtual memory technology. Okay, hope you guys can see the screen. You guys can hear me, right? Okay, great. Okay, so in the last class, we saw introduction to memory hierarchy. Okay, so in memory hierarchy, what did we see? We saw different types of memory, starting from registers to your cache, and then a main memory, your primary memory, which is your DRAM, and your secondary storage. And we saw a few different techniques and also attributes of these different memory technology. And today, what we will see is virtual memory. So, hope you guys have some basic knowledge about virtual memory, right? So you have learned this in your operating systems class, if I am not wrong. Am I correct? So have you guys heard of virtual memory? Okay. So all right. So what is virtual memory? So virtual memory, as the name says, it's a virtual. It's not real, right? So how can you have a non-real memory or virtual memory to make your computers work? So what does that mean? So can anyone tell me what we mean by virtual? Okay, it's always we have to pick names, right? Okay. Hmm. No, can you point to someone? Shruti. Hey, Shruti. Hey Shruti, we are just starting. We started to discuss virtual memory, and I just want to know, have like a quick recap of what this virtual memory means. Like, what do we understand by that? No, so, what is virtual? Virtual means it's not real, correct? So, if it's not real, how are we using this so-called unreal or virtual memory, right? How do we? Where is this located? How can we use something that is not real? You want to get some help? It's okay. I mean, this you learned this in operating systems one semester back. Just a recap. It's okay. I just want to know what you guys understand. Yeah, go on. Sure, sure. Yeah, yeah. Please go ahead. Yeah, sure. Shreyas, you want to help? Get some help. Let's have it. I mean, let's keep it little informal. Okay, you guys can discuss and come to a consensus. Like, what is virtual memory? You want to get some help from someone? But definitely, you've heard of this, right? You've learned this in operating systems, correct? Okay, okay. Yeah, someone else can try. We'll see. Shreyas, you want to point to someone? Vaibhav. Okay, Vaibhav. Okay. Right, but if there is in actual there is not memory. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're right. Almost right. But this is just one question I have. If I mean, how do you just make computer believe by giving a different address? I mean, there has to be data, right? There has to be data for it to believe. So where are these data stored? I mean, how would you make it believe? Okay, good. But you're almost there. So whatever you said is correct. Okay. But I just wanted to clarify one thing. Okay. So the term virtual memory means it's not real and all these things are correct. But we actually do have that much memory. Like for example, if you want to make your computer believe that you have 1 terabyte of virtual memory, then you should definitely have 1 terabyte of memory. Okay, you cannot fool the computer by having just say 1 GB or something. But where is this 1 terabyte? This 1 terabyte may not be your primary memory. So it's not your primary memory. Okay, so this 1 terabyte should be in your disk. Okay, which is your secondary memory. Clear? So what is happening is your computer does not understand anything else. All it knows is your primary memory. It only thinks when you give your processor some address, that address it will think, oh, this address is my primary memory address. That's all it knows. It does not know, oh, do I have a cache? Oh, this is something like in secondary memory. No, it doesn't understand all that. You give some address, it will say blindly, it will go to primary memory. It will think, okay, primary memory is this address belongs in the primary memory. That's all. Because it's a lot simpler that way. Okay, to in our, I mean, so the view of your CPU is just your primary memory. That's it. It thinks you only have primary memory and nothing else. The virtual memory means making the CPU believe that you have this extra memory, like 1 terabyte. Probably your primary memory will only be 1 GB. Okay, but your CPU, when it sees, you're going to make it believe that you have 1 TB of primary memory itself. So that's the fooling that you're doing. Okay, you're just fooling the CPU saying, hey, we have 1 terabyte of primary memory, don't worry about it. Okay, so that's the view here. Okay, but do you have 1 terabyte? Of course you do have 1 terabyte, but not in primary memory. But you have it as your secondary memory in your disk or SSD or flash or something, right? The secondary memory will have, it should have 1 terabyte. Okay, so don't think like when you say virtual memory, it's like, oh, we don't have any memory, but we are making the computer believe. No, it's not like that. The virtual memory means you're making the CPU believe that your primary memory is as big as your secondary memory. That's all. Clear, everyone? Shruti, is it clear? Shreyas? Okay, can you reiterate? Correct. Good, very good. Nice, nice. Okay, so that's the entire story here. Okay, so whatever we are going to see for rest of the class today has to do with this. That's all. See, now your CPU, whatever address you're giving CPU, right, it's not the physical memory address, or it's not the physical address of your primary memory. Okay, why? Because your physical memory is only 1 GB, no? So you cannot give your physical memory's address. Your CPU is going to say, hey, you told me you have 1 TB, you're giving me address that is only this bits long. Okay, so if it's 1 TB, how many bits you will have for addressing? 40 bits, no? 20 bits for megabyte, 30 for giga, and 40 for tera. Okay, if I'm not wrong. Okay, so but then so your CPU should not feel like, oh okay, but you're just giving me primary memory's address. So your CPU, all your programs, your operating system, everything should be careful because you're playing a game. Okay, you're making the CPU believe that, hey, it's really 1 TB. Trust me. Okay, but in reality, it's not 1 TB. It's just 1 GB. Only you guys know, not the CPU. Okay, so the address or the program address, when you compile your program, the address generated, right, everything, whatever the operating system is going to uh, uh, like showcase, everything is going to be your logical address, or that's your virtual address. Okay, so that's the virtual address space. Now every program is going to give you that address, but that address may not be physically present, correct? Because your physical memory is limited, so you need to do some kind of translation. So you're going to say, CPU is going to ask, hey, okay, bring me like fifth gigabyte address, I mean the data in the fifth gigabyte, bring it to me. I want to believe whether we really have physical memory of that big. Now what you will do is you will go search in the physical memory. It's only like 1 gigabyte. You don't have the second gigabyte itself, right? So what you will do, you will say, oh okay, we'll do something. No, whoever is there in some spot. So we'll just pick a spot. We have a strategy to do that. But then you will go and say, okay, bring it from the virtual memory. Virtual memory is nothing but your secondary storage, right? From your secondary storage, you will just bring it to this address and say, hey, see the address, the virtual address you gave is actually present here. So this is the virtual address for this location. Okay, so now you need to know in which physical address this virtual address is mapped. Okay, so that's the virtual address to physical address mapping. Now you're just fooling the CPU saying, yeah, that fifth gigabyte, no, that fifth gigabyte is here only. But only you know the fifth gigabyte is in this address location X. So you need to know, okay, so X in physical address has the virtual memory virtual address this. Now next time anybody asks for the same virtual address, you'll just go pick it from X. Okay, so now similarly you will do for every other thing. Okay, so anytime CPU is going to ask me, bring me the sixth gigabyte, then you're going to do the same thing. You're going to fix another spot and you're going to say, hey, now why is the virtual address 2 here? That's all. Okay, so any questions on this, guys? Is it clear? Okay, so now this mapping function mathematically can be represented like this. So V maps to M union a null set. So where your M is nothing but your memory, okay, physical address. So whenever you see a virtual address V, your CPU is going to ask, hey, I need the data in V. Okay, so now what you'll just go to your physical corresponding physical memory. It should have corresponding physical address, correct? So here we said X has that virtual memory address. Okay, now that mapping, no, either you will find it. So next time you reference X, you will find it in your primary memory. It will say, hey, primary memory, we already have that virtual address. Very nice. But sometimes you may not have, correct, in the first case, right? So we did not have, we had to bring it from your secondary storage. In that case, it will be a null set. Okay, so in other words, what you're trying to say is virtual memory will be mapped to your physical memory. So this is your virtual memory, will map to your physical memory, and remaining ones you will have unmapped memory, which is represented by your null set. Okay, so that's what it's mathematically represented as. Okay, clear guys? Okay, so that's the address translation here, just for your reference, that's all. So there are two kinds of virtual memory. One is private virtual memory, when you have multiple processors. So you have each processor have their own virtual space. Okay, and then but then they'll be sharing a physical memory. Okay, this is a typical shared memory architecture, right? So you can see here. So this guy has his own virtual space, and this guy has his own virtual space. Now the only problem with this is there's something called as a synonym problem. Okay, what could happen is, see this guy. So this virtual address is mapped to, let's say, this physical address, and similarly some other virtual address of this processor, right, could also be mapped to the same address. Okay, so this will result in your synonym problem. Okay. Uh, sorry. I just That's the homonym problem. Okay, so sorry about that. So what is going to happen is, you have two different virtual addresses. This is, let us say, this is your virtual address one, and let us say this is your virtual address two. Okay. Now these two virtual addresses are going to be so these are going to be different, but they're going to point to the same physical memory. Okay, yeah, actually I was right. Yeah. So this is just one physical address, and this one physical address is going to have two different virtual addresses. Okay, now that is called as a synonym problem. And why is this a problem? It's a problem because when, let us say, your virtual processor 2 is need some data from virtual processor 1, then it will get a different virtual address. Correct. So this guy is going to get virtual address v1. Okay, but this v1 and v2 point to the same data here, but it is going to get tagged differently. Okay, when you're caching it, your processor will think this is another address, this is one address, this is another address. Correct. Now but both of these are going to point to the same physical address. So let us say that I am just modifying my v1 address. Okay, so this processor has modified v1, so which means this data is modified, but according to my CPU, my v2 address has not changed. Okay, but actually it has, because it's the same physical address. Let us say you're storing the value 10 here. Now both your v1 and v2 are pointing to the same data here. Okay, now you're modifying the data in v1. Let us say you've made it as 11, but your v2 in your cache will still think, okay, v2 is equal to 10. That is wrong. Correct. So that is called as a synonym problem. Okay, two different virtual addresses pointing to the same physical address. That's the virtual problem. Okay, now to overcome this, you have shared virtual memory. So the problem here was that your physical memory is shared, but your virtual memory is private. So to overcome that problem, you have a shared virtual memory itself. Okay, so now everything is in one big virtual space. So there is no synonym problem here. Okay, so there won't be any homonym problem also. So we don't need what is homonym problem. Homonym problem is the opposite of that. Okay, so when you have this same virtual address pointing to different physical addresses, so that's what it is. Any questions on this? Okay, pages and page frames. Okay, so the way we divide this virtual memory and physical memory is into pages and page frames. So this is your physical address. Okay, I mean physical memory, primary memory. Primary memory, this is physical, the actual RAM, right? The physical RAM that is here. And here you have your virtual memory. Okay. Now, In your physical memory, you're going to divide the physical memory into equal partitions. Okay, and each one is called as a frame. Okay, it's called frame or page frame. Okay, so each one is a frame, frame 1, frame 2, frame 3, and so on. Okay, so you divide the entire physical memory into different frames. These are just fixed size blocks. Similarly, on the virtual memory, you will divide the entire virtual memory into fixed size blocks again. But here you don't call it frames, you call it pages. That's all. Okay. Otherwise, they are the same. So the size is also going to be same. So if this is going to be 100 kilobytes, your page size is also going to be 100 kilobytes. Okay. So it's just a mapping of your page to your frame. So that's what your paging means. Okay, there's a concept called paging. Again, you would have come across in operating systems, correct? So what is the concept? So you divide the physical memory into equal divisions called as frames, and then you divide the virtual memory into equal partitions called as pages. Now the mapping between these, right? So which page I should bring? So as in the previous slide, I just told people bring the data, one data to your memory, right? You just don't bring one data, you actually bring in a page. Okay, because you can exploit the bandwidth, right? So you don't have to bring it byte by byte, so you just bring one page altogether. Okay, so this page will be mapped here. Okay, similarly this page will be mapped. So depending on how you have the demand, you're going to have the pages mapped to the frames. Address translation mechanisms. Okay, so now you need to have a translation mechanism, because now you have your page address, I mean page frames address, and then that's the physical address and your virtual memory address. Okay, so you need to have a translator. So generally you go through hashing or concurrence function. So I think you guys know what is hashing. So you use a hash function to index. And similarly, there's something called as congruence function. It has to do with your generation of pseudo random numbers, and then you do the mapping, similar to hashing. Okay. Now there is something called as translation look-aside buffer, and we briefly saw this earlier. Its short form is TLB. It's nothing but this is so that we saw about this mapping, right? So your physical memory to your virtual memory mapping. This is physical memory. This is virtual memory, right? So now somebody is going to do the mapping. Okay, so we noted, right? So this X address actually refers to your virtual address 1. Your Y address is actually virtual address 2, something like that, right? So all these things are actually noted down in a table. Okay, and that table is called as a page table. It's nothing but it's like a register. Okay, we are keep in mind that we are fooling the CPU. Okay, CPU will ask any address, it will give you any virtual address. It will say, hey, go bring this virtual address to me. Okay, but only you know that, oh, this virtual address, oh, we have to bring it from your virtual memory and then put it in this particular primary memory. Okay, so which address maps to which primary address, primary memory's address, that one is recorded. It's actually recorded in this lookup table, that table is called as a page table. Okay, now translation look aside buffer is just a cache. Okay, it's a cache memory for your page table. Always, you know, right? So when you have primary memory, you have a cache. A cache is nothing but it's a buffer, and it's made of SRAM, so your access is faster. Now similarly, your TLB is nothing but a cache memory for your page table. Okay, so that's what it is. Okay, it's a hardware cache to provide fast lookup. It stores the most recently referenced page entries similar to your cache, which based on locality of reference, temporal and spatial locality. It will just bring it inside your TLB. Okay, so that you don't have to go through page table. Page tables are huge. Okay, but TLBs are small because and it's also it's fast. So here the virtual address are divided into your page number, block number, and then the word address. Okay, so page number, you know which page it is, and then you need your block number also. If because ultimately this page is going to go into a cache, okay, and caches have blocks, and then each block is divided into several words, and you will get the actual word from it. Okay, so if you want to access just one word, let us say you want the value of a, so it means that the a has to be brought from that page, and then it is in that block, and in that it is in this particular word. Okay, so you have TLB hit versus miss similar to your caches. The idea is to get the frame number. Okay, ultimately what we need to report to your CPU is, hey, you want this a is in this frame number, go, this virtual address is in this frame number only, go check, and your CPU is again full, it says, hey, yeah, right, man, yeah, we do have 1 TB. Okay, so now here is like kind of a graph that says how your entire address translation works. So you have your mapping function. So either you map it using hashing function or congruence function, and then you have the actual translation. Translation can be direct mapping or inverted mapping. We'll see what inverted mapping is in a bit. Okay, and then you have your TLBs, one level page table, multi-level page tables. So page tables, one big page table could actually be time consuming because of sequential access. So what you'll do is you'll have a hierarchical page tables. So these are the different possibilities. Paged memory. So we talked about paging, right? So what is paged memory? As you see, page, block, and word. So you just divide everything into these three segments. So simply put, this is same as your textbook with page numbers. That's all it is. Okay, you take any textbook, that any textbook will have pages, right? And you see all the pages are of equal size, correct? Every page is A4 size or something, right? You have a standard size for your page. So your page memory, so you partition both your physical memory and virtual memory as fixed size block. So what is the physical side called as? That's called as your frames, while the one in your virtual memory is called as pages. Okay, in physical memory you have frames, and virtual memory you have pages. And then you have page table consisting of the frame numbers, and that refers to the page entries, so which page maps to which frame. Okay, so now we have a problem. So the one point to notice, it's fixed size block. Okay, so paging, always keep in mind, pages are fixed size. Take your textbook for example. Okay, every textbook, if you take one particular textbook, in that textbook all the pages are of same size. Okay, all right. So now if let us say you want an address. Okay, your CPU is asking for an address. Hey, I need this virtual address, go bring it. Now you go check in your TLB. Okay, now it's not in TLB, so it's a TLB miss. So you think, okay, it's not in TLB, let us scope that it is in your page table. So you go check in your page table. Okay, so first what do you do? So you check in the TLB. In the TLB, if it is a hit, then it's fine, right? So you just go to CPU and say, hey, yeah, we have no problem. But then in the case that it is not in TLB, then you're in trouble. You're going to check page table. You'll go check page table. Hey, is it there? Really there? Please, 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 please. And then you check the page. It's not there. Okay. What do you do? Do you go back to CPU and say, sorry, boss, no, we don't have that page with us? No, you can't tell that, right? So that's your boss, and you get better get the job done. So you're going to go take a chance saying that, CPU, please wait. There's some technical issue. Okay, we're resolving. And then what you'll do is you'll go, and then it must be there in secondary memory for sure, correct? So you go to the secondary memory, that which is your virtual memory, and then you go check, and then finally you find it. Okay, so this one, right, the event that you don't find it in your page table, it's called as a page fault. It means that you have to go look it up in your virtual memory and do the mapping for that particular virtual address. Okay, so that's called as a page fault. So once you have a page fault, you'll go look it up in your virtual memory, and then get that particular page, now put it in your page table, and then put an entry in your TLB, and then you will go and say to your CPU, hey, actually, you know what, yeah, we had it all the while. Okay, so actually something wrong happened, so it's just mistake on our part, but then see here you have your data. Okay, any questions on this, guys? Okay, there's also something called as context switch. Think you heard of this again? So in a case of context switch, right? So you have each of your uh, program that is running, right? A process will have its own address space. Okay, and every time you run a process, then you actually bring in that corresponding pages to your physical address, and then you keep working on it. The moment you evict the process, then you actually put it back to your virtual space. Okay, so that you have all the data intact. Now the problem with paging is internal fragmentation. Okay, but there is no external fragmentation. So we'll see what is fragmentation in a bit. Okay, all right, any questions on this, guys, on paging? Chaitra, is everything clear? Okay, next we have segmentation. Okay, segmented memory. Now segmenting um, is something like you're saying, like you have a, it's a different concept altogether. So you have a huge memory. Let us say this is your virtual memory. Okay, and then you're going to say, okay, for my process, for all the code of the process, I'm going to put it in this segment, and then all my data is going to go into this segment, data segment, and then my other data, everything is going to the stack segment, and so on. Okay, so now here you're just going to say, oh, okay, let us say I have 1 terabyte of memory, so I'm just going to divide it randomly. So I'm going to say like 500 GB goes here, and then yeah, 500 GB is too much. We just give 100 GB goes here, and then 500 GB goes here, and then 400 GB goes here. Okay, so this is of variable size. Okay, segmented memory is of variable size, it's not fixed size. Okay, it's logical structuring of a program. So if you're ultimately, everything is a program that runs on CPU, correct? So whether you run whatever application, you call it with any fancy name, finally it is going to be like a subroutine or a program with it's ultimately going to become a process. Okay, so now unlike these pages, so your segments are varied sizes. Okay, and how do you segment it? Based on the logical structuring, the program will have a code. So you give a code segment, give some space for code segment, and then you have data, you have data segment, and then stack, and so on, like that. Okay, you have multiple segments like that. So it's a 2D address space. It's arranged in a 2D matrix style. Okay, virtual address has two parts. It has a segment number and an offset. Okay, similar to your page has your page word, right? And see here you have your segment number and an offset. So offset is the actual address that points to your 1D contiguous address. Okay, it's like a, you can imagine to be a two-dimensional array here. And segment number, it's not contiguous. Okay, so it may not be a contiguous memory allocation. And here you have only external fragmentation and no internal fragmentation. Okay, so now let us understand what is fragmentation. Okay, so there are two types of fragmentation, right? So one is internal fragmentation, and then there is something called as external fragmentation. Okay, internal fragmentation will happen only if you have fixed partitions in your memory. Okay, so let us say you have this is your as your memory, and then you divide it into fixed sizes. So if you have fixed partitions, then what will happen? Okay, so you'll say, let us say I'm running one program. Okay, I'm running one program p1, and then that p1 is you using entire page or frame of my first frame here, and then the memory, and then it is using the entire second frame, but it is not using entire third frame. Okay, it's only using like part of it, like say only 10% of my other frame. Okay, it is using only part of my third frame. Now what will happen to this, the remaining space? I will not be able to use it for any other thing, right? Because the page has been allocated, correct? Now this space cannot be used by anyone. Now that is called as internal fragmentation. Okay, now when you come to external fragmentation, what would happen is you have partitions of variable size. External fragmentation will only happen when you have a variable size partition. Let us say you have one big partition like this and another like other partitions like this. Okay, now what will happen is, let us say that you have in your segment, let us say this is your data segment. Okay, in your data segment you have occupied say some amount of it. Okay, say 25% of your data segment is occupied. Okay, so it will be confusing. Okay, let's check if, let's say that your data segment is 1 GB. Okay, now in this 1 GB, let us say you have 200 MB already occupied. Okay, which leaves another 800 MB, right? 800 MB is free for us, so remaining 800 MB is free for us. But let us say we have a process and that process needs 900 MB. Okay, that 900 MB you cannot put it here, but you have space here. But this is called as code segment and this is called as stack segment. You have other segments where you have space. This is free, this is also free, but here you have only 800 MB. Now because of this you will not be able to fit in your uh, whatever memory, right? You will not be able to fit it inside your data segment, so then you will have fragmentation. This is called as external fragmentation. Okay, so ultimately at 11, huh? Okay, I'll try to wrap it up early. So yeah, what we have here is whenever you have paging, it has fixed partition, hence you will always have internal fragmentation. And whenever you have segmenting, segmented memory, it's always variable partition, hence you will always have external fragmentation, and it's unavoidable. Okay, you can't avoid it. But one way to overcome is to actually have paged segments. You mix both. Okay, now to give an analogy, what did we understand about paging? Paging here, the people list shows them all. Wow, okay. All right, guys, give me 5 minutes. I'll wrap it up soon. Okay, don't be in a hurry. All right. So now, what are we saying? Yeah, the analogy, right? Analogy of textbooks. If you take a textbook, now you have all the pages in your textbook. Okay, you have all the pages as same size. Okay, all the pages are of same size in a textbook, correct? However, if you take chapter 1 could be like 25 pages, chapter 2 could be like 50 pages, chapter 3 could be like 70 pages, something like that, right? Now each of these chapters are nothing but your segments. Okay, and every single page is again the page. Okay, pages are fixed size blocks, and but you will say, okay, my first 25 pages correspond to my code segment, the next 50 pages correspond to my data segment, and so on. Okay, so now that is how your paged segments work. Okay, so you have your address is divided into fixed size page within the segments. Okay, so you first, so segments are bigger partition, and then each of the segment is divided again into pages, so it holds the advantages of both paging and segmentation. Okay, so programs are logically structured, and so for virtual memory it's actually much easier to have to handle your paging. So practically all the systems that we have, all the operating systems and all the architectures support your paged segments. Okay, and finally we come to inverted paging. Inverted paging, the problem is, so when you have a small virtual address, it's actually very nice to have page tables. Okay, but when you have large virtual addresses, then what will happen? Your page table itself will become very large. Okay, so now your page tables, if it, let us say your page table itself is 1 gigabyte, then every lookup is going to take so much time. Okay, so you either have to go to multi-level paging. Okay, and multi-level paging also takes some time. Okay, so now the address, the solution here is to have inverted page table. So here what the idea is, you have the physical memory, correct? So in page table, what you have, your page table will have the total number of pages, correct? Let us say you have 2 to the power 20 bytes. If it's byte addressable, then you need 20 bits. Okay, so you need 20 entries in your page table. Okay, so similarly, now if this exceeds, then that itself become a very large number, correct? So your page table itself will become too large. So the other way to do this is, instead of focusing on the number of pages in your virtual memory, what you will do is you will just have the number of frames in your physical memory. Okay, this is fixed, correct? So this is size of your actual RAM. Okay, so in this RAM, whatever is your size of your RAM, you will just have that many entries in your inverted page table. Okay, and then each of the frame you will see, okay, this frame where does it map, this frame where does it map. Previously what did we do? We had your virtual memory, this virtual memory is present in this physical memory, this virtual memory is present in this physical memory. So we are doing the inverted way now. We are just doing, okay, you just, for every entry in your RAM, you created one entry in your inverted page table, and this physical memory is mapped to this virtual address. This physical memory has this virtual address. You do the inverted way. Okay, so that will save you some space. So that's the idea. Okay, so only one inverted table can be used by all the processes, because you just have all the memory that is available in your physical memory, right? So you just use the inverted page table that way. All right, okay, so we will see this memory replacement in the next class. All right, so I'll leave you guys. You guys can leave now. So any questions? Any questions, guys? Did you guys understand something out of today's class? Okay, great, nice. All right, thank you guys. You can, yeah, you can give your attendance and leave.